Welcome, friends, to an unscheduled live with Crime Time and with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. I'm a retired New York City police detective. And if you like all things true crime related from the police perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Tonight, as promised, I'm going to bring to you Bryan Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor. The question is, how and why did she get appointed by the court in Latah County? So we're going to get into that in just a moment. But before we do, I want to say a special thank you to you, the Patreon supporters, channel members, folks that replay this video, the moderators, and all of you who send comments and questions down below. It's always great to have you guys on with Ed and I when he's available to question us, to send questions and comments in. Hey, I have a new studio set up. Lighting is brighter. I got, a lot of user feedback. So when I get user feedback, I like to listen and try. So some folks are saying, hey, it's kind of dark in your studio. Could you lighten it up? Well, I did the next best thing. I got a new camera. I lightened it up. This is an upgrade that I've had for quite a few months. I just didn't have the time to put it together. I was up till 3 a.m. last night. 3 o'clock in the morning. You know me, I'm an old man. I get to bed early. I was up till 3:30. Me and Josh packed it in my time. So he's 3 hours behind in California. But all of this unpacking and putting together, I was up for hours upgrading the studio. So I hope I don't scare you guys with a little bit of me up close and personal. I also have a Popeye cam, which I promised you guys. So before we get into this video, I'm going to show you Popeye cam. Boom, there he is. And there's Popeye on the side of me. So we have two separate views now in the studio. I have a third camera that I'm going to light up either on this side or behind me. So Popeye cam, the main camera, Popeye cam. Where is it? There it is. There's my 35-year-old African gray hanging out. He's hanging out with us. So it's always great to have these little bits of fun things to play with. Hey, listen, let's get into this right away. Our good friend, Miss Burkhart, she's on the other side of the United States. She's on the Pacific time zone. I had asked her really quick if she would come on with me, but she's got a lot of things going on. It's her grandma celebrated her 94th birthday, and she's got a lot of things happening on this Sunday. And I noticed she wasn't available, but I begged and pleaded with her, and I said, listen, can I play your video? She did an explanation of how and why Ann Taylor got appointed to the Bryan Kohberger case. And I think for me and for you guys, this is going to be eye-opening and educational. It's not all the answers that we want to hear, but it really gives you a great understanding of how and how this whole thing goes down, how the public defender in Latah County reached out to another public defender's office in an adjoining county that made it economical and reasonable. And the pool of legal aid assistance, counsel that are qualified to defend a person who's charged with a capital punishment, and they haven't even charged him with a capital crime yet, but we know it involves 4 young college students, ages 20. 2 of them were 20, 2 were 21, Ethan Chapin, Xana Canodal, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogan. These are the folks who we need to get justice for. So they didn't want to have somebody coming from 300 or 400 miles away, and they chose this next best thing. Again, we're all caught up on the ethical part of it, right? Ann Taylor represented Canodal's mom, Kara. So Kara Northington in a prior drug case. Haley, thank you for becoming a member. Let me highlight that and say hi to some of you folks in the chat. Cammie, good to see you. Lacey, Dawn Marie, as always. I think I saw Sleuthy in there. I love it when you guys come on and go. Dawn Marie was like, here we go. It's showtime. Like before I get ready to go live, I'm looking at the chat really quick before I go live, and I see everybody in the chat going, here we go. It's showtime. It's time for DutyRon. Bill Cannon and all the folks over at Police Off the Cuff are going to be live at 8 o'clock. So this is going to be a preemptive short live stream. I'm going to end it at 8, and you guys are going to be directed all over to Police Off the Cuff. I sent Josh a message, and hopefully he takes care of that. So let me know what you think about this new camera setup, about the lighting, about how this all looks. And again, I have the close-up shot on. So being that I'm Italian, I talk with my hands. It's going to focus and defocus. But look, the Jagaloon sign. The Jagaloon sign. It comes into focus really quick. That's what I like about it. I tested this all night last night with Josh. Hey, Jagaloon. Boom. Jagaloon. All right. So let's get right into it. Let's listen. This is a 10-minute video. It's our good friend, Miss Burkhart. She's a criminal defense attorney. She is, as I like to say, she's a smarty pants. She's smart like Ed Wallace. She's smart in her field of criminal defense, right? And she's working on appeals exclusively now. So she knows her. I want to make it a family show. Miss Burkhart knows her. And I did say the S word there. So let's, without further ado, listen to what she has to say, because I'm going to play her whole video and then I'm going to come on and we'll talk about it afterwards. But I think this is important for us to see and hear this, because again, we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree, but when we listen to what the facts are, and I told you this so many times, Ed Wallace and I are not going to feed you a bag of goods. We're not snake oil salesmen. If we do not have the answers that you're looking for, we reach out to our good friends, and Ed has a really huge Rolodex. I got a pretty big Rolodex, and we got Timmy Acosta. Timmy Acosta has a Rolodex that's 10 miles long. It just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. So I got to stop with my hands because it makes it focus and defocus. But Timmy Acosta has a Rolodex probably just as wide and deep as Ed Wallace has. So when we need questions answered by experts, we just reach out to them. You know, we had the MVAC president, Jared from MVAC Systems. We're going to have Dr. Joni Johnston, a forensic and clinical psychologist. She's going to join us, and it's going to be a great conversation. So without further ado, let's listen to what our good friend Andrea Burkhart from Burkhart Law has to say. This is Ann Taylor. How and why did she get appointed?
The best place to start any story is usually at the beginning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to December 30th, 2022, when Ann Taylor was first appointed to represent Bryan Kohberger. We're going to look at how and why that happened. December 30th, 2022 is the first day that the world learned of Bryan Kohberger. It's the day that he was arrested in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, and held for extradition proceedings to send him back to face these murder charges in Latah County, Idaho. That same day, Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall signed an order appointing Ann Taylor as Bryan Kohberger's public defender. Ann Taylor also filed a notice of limited representation where she indicated she was undertaking the case pending arrangements, agreements being reached between herself, the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office, for whom she works, and the Latah County Public Defender, for whom she is being asked to take on this representation. So obviously, Ann Taylor doesn't work for Latah County. So how did she end up in this position? Let's start there. So to understand the context in which this appointment took place, we have to backpedal just slightly to 2015, when the ACLU sued the state of Idaho in a class action lawsuit alleging that essentially their public defense system was constitutionally inadequate, that there were systemic problems that would persistently deprive defendants of their basic right to counsel. Now, while this case does remain ongoing, it's currently set for trial in 2024. After some initial back and forth in the litigation, the state of Idaho moved to address some of these concerns by creating a public defense commission and adopting certain standards for public defense contracts, public defender qualifications, caseloads, and things of that nature. We're going to turn to look at the requirements that these rules impose for capital defenders. The first thing we see from these rules is that a capital case doesn't actually mean that the death penalty is currently being sought. We know from the filings in Bryan Kohberger's case that the state has not yet filed a notice of intent to pursue the death penalty. And under Idaho state law, this is a prerequisite for a death penalty sentence to be imposed. But under this rule, if the state is legally entitled to file that notice, then the case is going to be treated as a capital case. So this, in my view, along with what frankly appears like a pretty strong likelihood that a capital sentence is going to be sought in this case if there isn't some plea negotiated resolution, this is why the capital standards are being applied in this situation, even though we're not technically at the point yet where a death penalty sentence could be imposed. The public defense standards impose requirements on courts when they are appointing public defenders in different types of cases. And so in a capital case, the court is required to appoint a defending attorney from the capital defending attorney roster to represent an indigent person at public expense. We're going to get back to the capital defending attorney roster. They're required to inquire about the defending attorney's workload to ensure compliance with the public defense rules. We're going to get back to those workload rules. At or before the initial appearance in a capital case, appoint no less than 2 qualified capital defending attorneys, 1 designated lead, and the other as co-counsel. The court shall not appoint a defending attorney to any case with a conflict of interest in that case. And finally, if you don't meet the eligibility requirements to be on the roster, you can't be appointed for those cases. There were some concerns that I saw initially about the timing of this appointment, the fact that Ann Taylor was put on the case before Bryan Kohberger was even back in Idaho, just barely getting to know who he is. And the Idaho court is already taking this action. Suggestion that perhaps there was maneuvering or, something improper going on with that. And so I hope this rule clarifies that before the initial appearance in the capital case, the appointment is appropriate. When you look at the timeline of how things unfolded here, it was the day before this, December the 29th, when prosecutors got the arrest warrant based on the probable cause affidavit that was filed, got that, over to Pennsylvania and got him served and arrested, and the case has moved from there. So this all unfolded rather quickly. We can anticipate that as the court and the parties are becoming aware that this is about to land in court, they would begin to take steps to start to figure out where are we going to go with this, who are we going to be appointing, and that kind of thing. So the timing of this does not strike me as anything particularly alarming at all, particularly when there was this stuff going on in the background as well with the state potentially trying to return the possession of the property and the contents of the property where this took place to the families of the victims. And there was an emergency, essentially short notice motion filed to preserve the crime scene for a short period of time for the defense to be able to do some investigation of that as well. So given all of these things kind of coalescing at the same time, this timing does not surprise me at all. It would be kind of more of a concern from my standpoint had they not done this and had, the crime scene then potentially been tainted by allowing, people who are not, crime scene technician.
Hey, I want to say there's a lot of things that she's saying here that Ed and I spoke about, when they put the stop on the crime scene. I want to just put myself back on for a second. She's talking right now about when the attorney put this kibosh. Remember Chief Fry and company over at the Moscow Police Department, they made the announcement that they were going to clear out the crime scene and that they were going to give it back to the property owners, to the property management company. And then there was that court order to stop it. That's what she's talking about here. So Ed and I, I'll link the video somewhere in the cards up top in one of these corners or down below. Ed and I spoke about that extensively, about crime scene preservation and how important is that for a defense attorney, not just the prosecution, the defense. And that's what she's talking about here. She's talking about putting the kibosh and stopping the crime scene being released before the defense had their people to come in and reconstruct or look at the crime scene in its condition, and before someone comes in there and starts taking out and ripping out floors and ripping out walls and doing sheetrock and all kinds of rehab and stuff like that. She's talking about the legalities of that here. So I thought it was important and a great point that she brought up while talking about this. She put that on there, that the defense stopped that from occurring. And that was an important part of having a fair and impartial trial, a fair representation by a criminal defense attorney. That's what they're supposed to do. This is what happens. So I just wanted to point out that Ed and I did speak about that, and I'll let the rest of this play. We're almost done with it.
And tainted by So given all of these things kind of coalescing at the same time, this timing does not surprise me at all. It would be kind of more of a concern from my standpoint had they not done this and had, the crime scene then potentially been tainted by allowing, people who are not crime scene technician type people to enter the property without taking the appropriate precautions and so forth. That would have potentially created a much, much larger problem than simply finding who we're going to appoint as the defense counsel in this case, getting them on board ASAP and putting them in a position to be able to take action to protect the defendant's rights in that situation. So why did Latah County turn to Ann Taylor in this situation? Well, I think we can get that answer pretty easily by looking at the public defense roster for the state of Idaho for Capital Counsel. Right, and what we see from that is there aren't an awful lot of them to choose from in the first place. There's 30 total attorneys on this list, but only 14 of them are qualified to be lead counsel in a capital case. We can also see that there is a bit of a geographic distribution problem with where these attorneys are.
All right, and in this part, she's going to talk about the distance between all of the of all of these attorneys on this list, and how it would be it wouldn't be efficient for the court to employ a public defender who has to travel, say, 300 miles, or whatever the case may be. I think she talks about 360 miles one way of traveling. It just wouldn't be feasible to do that. You couldn't call in somebody from, so many miles away and be able to, expecting them to be there day in and day out to do the things that needs to be done to have a proper representation of Bryan Kohberger. So it's important that we hear this, and Andrea is going to go over it now.
Latah County is in the 2nd Judicial District of Idaho. We don't have any qualified capital attorneys, either lead or co-counsel, in Latah County in the 2nd District. We do have some in the 1st District, where Ann Taylor is, and we see she's the only lead qualified attorney. There are a couple of others who are qualified as co-counsel. The overwhelming majority of these lawyers are in the 4th District, which is where Boise, Idaho is. That's the big population center in the state of Idaho. So that makes sense. But the problem is that Boise is over 300 miles from Moscow. It's close to a 6-hour drive to get there. So this is not going to be your first choice of attorney to pull from, because it's going to be very, very difficult for a public defender to be able to manage that kind of travel requirement. You're going to either need to be making a very long drive very regularly all the time, or you're going to need to kind of relocate to be closer to where witnesses are and the court hearings are and things like that, certainly where Mr. Kohberger is. It's not really realistic to expect a very small county like Latah County to jump right at the idea of the expense it's going to entail to bring in somebody that distant to be lead county on the case. Their preference is going to be to get the closest person that they possibly can who's qualified to handle it. So the obvious person in that situation is Ann Taylor. Now, obviously, this is just the county's preference, and, money and Sixth Amendment rights do often kind of run into a little bit of tension, hence that 2015 lawsuit from the ACLU that we talked about before. Again, it's not a cause for alarm for me that they would choose to look at her as the best possible option available to them. Now, clearly, if there is some reason why she should not take the case, such as the rules tell us, if she's got an actual conflict of interest here, then she's not the right person, and the county is going to have to just suck it up and bring in the expensive person from Boise or wherever else. So that's going to be the opportunity now for us to turn to the question of the conflict of interest. Did Ann Taylor, on December 30th of 2022, when she took this appointment, have a conflict of interest that should have disqualified her? Well, let's look at that next.
There you go. Thank you so much, Miss Burkhart. She's awesome, man. I freaking love her. I think that, she explains things in clear and concise manners. And as a matter of fact, I put a small short out today. For those of you who don't watch these shorts that I put out, I put a short out today, and I highlighted her first video that she did. And there's a part 1 to this, and then there's a part 2. But in part 1, she really goes into the conflict of interest. And I spoke strongly about this because I didn't have the knowledge base myself, because people were asking me, "Hey, DutyRon, what about what about this? Can you talk about it?" And I said, no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to grab somebody who has this knowledge, and she's a criminal defense attorney. So let me share this. This is only 57 seconds, but this was her on her first video, and I'm going to play it quick for you. Hold on, I got references or background.
One of the primary concerns that I've seen expressed about this situation is a concern that, is he going to have some basis to get his conviction overturned? No, there is nothing wrong with Ann Taylor having accepted the representation of Bryan Kohberger at the outset. No, there is no reason at this point in time that Ann Taylor would need to withdraw. And no, that quite frankly, even if there were a problem, with the optics or something like that. That the standards that apply to a criminal defendant trying to raise this kind of issue are so extremely challenging that there is no possibility of any type of viable argument being raised that could potentially overturn a conviction on appeal.
People are speaking about this without any legal
freedom of the
people are speaking about this
So,
without
I'm gonna
any
take
legal
that
references
off.
or background.
One of the primary concerns
Again, the most important thing here is for us not to talk about stuff that we really don't have knowledge of. Listen, do we feel that this is not right? If this doesn't feel right? Yeah, we do. We feel like, wow, she's represented not just Kara Northington, but there was talk of other representations that were made by Ann Taylor. But public defenders represent so many people. I used to bring in my warrant returns when I worked in fugitive enforcement and I would lock up people. There would be people that I would bring back to Queens Criminal Court in Queens County, when I was an NYPD detective in fugitive enforcement. And I would bring back the same people who were recidivists, who would continually not return on warrants. A judge would give them a release on their own recognizance or give them a small bail. They would jump out on the bail, and then we would have to go and bring them back. We'd have to hunt them down, bring them back. And when we would bring them back, sometimes the same people would re-offend. In other words, they wouldn't come back on their next court date after having a warrant issued for them in the past. So we would bring them back, and sometimes we would get 3 and 4 different attorneys representing them for the same case because the attorney that they got assigned to was handling several other cases. In the state of Idaho, or in this jurisdiction here in Latah County, it's so small, and there's such a minimal amount of cases, and not an overabundance of public defenders. Whereas in Queens County, in Queens County Criminal Court, and in Kings County, and all the 5 boroughs, there's an army of these public defenders. There's just so many of them. I could walk into any of the boroughs, and there would be 5 or 6 in each courtroom. So that being said, this is a case that I believe that it's important that we listen to the pros, that we listen to the people who know and have knowledge of this, and not somebody that's spewing garbage out, not some person that's sitting at home that has no knowledge of the court system telling you, oh, this is going to be, he's going to be able to appeal his conviction. You heard Andrea right there. She said there is no possible way that he will be able to appeal any conviction in a court of law based on his representation, Ann Taylor. All right, let's go to the chat. I see Jennifer Nobles is here. Ground zero for our boys in Bakersfield, California, Sincere and Classic. I'm going to be doing an update on Orrin and Orson West, Sincere and Classic from Bakersfield, California. The trial is supposed to commence in March, next month, commence against Trezell and Jacqueline West. When that trial is getting ready to kick off, we are going to go full steam ahead and cover that day to day to day. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. And there was a couple of super chatters. I apologize if I missed your super chat. I want to say thank you to Okie Dokie. Kimberly Culp, my sincere and utter condolences to you on the loss of your husband. Again, you and I have been communicating back and forth. I send you strength, prayers, and positive vibes. So if everybody could light up the chat with a lot of prayer emojis and hugs and hearts for Kimberly Culp. She lost her husband, and there's no greater loss there. So I'm sending you a lot of love and support. So Kimberly, we all love you, and we're thinking of you. Thank you, Joey Brooklyn, for being here. Hello, Princess Michelle. Always great to see you. Sherry, thank you for being here. Hey, let me know what you think of the new setup. I have a new Sony camera with a funky long Sigma defocused lens and all kinds of goodies on the lens here. Let me know if you like it. Natasha, always great to see you. Thank you, Natasha. And thank you to everyone who's sending hearts in the chat for Kimberly. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for your support. Hey, let me know what you think about this. Bryan Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, and how she got appointed. I think that video, which I have linked in the description, go over to Andrea Burkhart's law channel on YouTube. Her channel on YouTube is got not just this case, but a lot of other different cases. And, she's always willing and ready to address any type of situations. And, she's not on anybody's in particular side. She is on the side of education to the process. And, we speak to so many different defense attorneys. We have Joe Murray, who's on with us all the time. He hasn't been available lately because he's been so busy. But, Joe Murray, he gives a great presentation. We have Pete Tragos from the Lawyer channel. He's been on with me once. I'm going to have him back on. Thank you, Lace. I appreciate it, Lacey. Love the camera. Thank you so much for that. Ray Kelly is here. Always great to see you, Captain Ray. Lou, thank you for becoming a channel member. We greatly appreciate you. Hey, we're going to all segue over to Police Off the Cuff. Bill and his team are going to be covering another episode of the Idaho 4. He calls it the Idaho quadruple. So go on over and check out Police Off the Cuff. Joe says Coffindorfer thinks differently about conflict of interest. I wonder why. Hey, listen, I stay in my own lane, Joe, and I just want to say this again. I'm not an attorney. I never was an attorney. I dealt with attorneys, and let me just say this about my good friend Jennifer Coffindorfer. She does her research. She looks into things, and you know what? Her side of however she feels about this is valid, and it's valid to her. And she's not a dummy. She's a smart person. She looks into things. So I don't ever get into the pile on the bandwagon. If somebody's doing something that you don't agree with, we can agree to disagree. And her thoughts, and anybody else's for that matter, mine included, Miss Burkhart, the lawyer, and Joe Murray also, Joe Murray can ruffle feathers at times. We have to just be respectful. And I respect her stand on this. I respect her stand. I just can't get into a conversation about this because I have to be guided by the professionals, and that's the. Listen, part of being an adult is being able to accept that I will never appeal to everybody, right? I can never make everybody happy. You may not agree with what I have to say, but as long as we can do this respectfully, I'm open to constructive criticism. If I opened up my comments, the blocked and deleted comments that I have, the nastiness that comes in, or everything in between, and I showed you guys what I receive on a regular basis, you would be like, why do you do this? There's so many nasty people out there. But at the end of the day, the good outweighs the bad. And that's what I go on. I go on the good outweighing the bad, because I know from being a police officer and a detective for over 2 decades that there's good, there's bad, and there's evil. And I choose not to walk with the face of evil. I choose to walk away from toxic, negative people. And if somebody's continually telling me that this one's no good, that one's no good, and is just a Debbie Downer all day, every day, I try to disconnect from that because I don't want to be brought down. Misery loves company, right? I'm not about giving company to misery. I don't want that, Life is too short for us to be around toxic and negative people. You could choose and do whatever you want, whatever floats your boat, Kimberly, thank you for the super chat. She says, I love Ron and Ed. You guys are so right on all things. We're not right on all things. We're right. We're right on what we feel is, look, everybody has their approach. Our approach is trying to lift people up and educate. If you want to be around and hang around for that, then so be it. But if you want to have a toxic bowl of soup, I'm not drinking it. I'm not having it. And I'll give you this.
Oh, hell no.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. But seriously, 8:00 in another 5 or 6 minutes or so, Police Off the Cuff is going to be live. We are going to be center over there. I hope each and every one of you guys go over and support Bill, Phil, and Professor Mike Geary. These guys give it to you as straight as they can from their experience as retired homicide detective sergeants. Mike Geary is a retired sergeant, and Phil, retired homicide detective. And they give you stuff that Ed and I will give you from a different perspective. And it's always good to hear everybody's differences and opinions. But again, when you get that toxic bowl of soup, what I say to those people is,
"Hey, bud, what's your problem?"
And then I go,
"Pardon my French, but you're an asshole."
So, be that as it may, Ange, this is not a Sony A7. It's a Sony ZV-E10. That's a lot of letters and a lot of stuff. Sony ZV-E10. If anybody's interested in knowing the equipment that I have here in the studio, give me a comment down below, and maybe I'll link all of my gear in the comments down below or in the description. So I'm going to end this by hanging out with you guys over on Police Off the Cuff. I hope you guys get a chance. Jennifer Nobles, I can't highlight that question. It doesn't come up in StreamYard, but I see it on my phone. She says, at DutyRon, thank you sincerely for always speaking about our boys missing from Bakersfield, California. Sincere and classic, a.k.a. Orrin and Orson West. You have become our uncle, DutyRon, and we appreciate you from all of us. Listen, thank you for that, Jennifer. I love you guys. And, my heart is in that case, the case of Orrin and Orson West, sincere and classic. I have on this channel produced and made the most videos on that case. This Idaho, quadruple murder case, I'm approaching almost the same amount of videos that we made for the boys, but I'm never going to stop talking about it until Jacqueline and Trezell West are found guilty and sentenced to prison for the rest of their lives. So I'm going to cover that case. And just like the Thomas Valva case here in New York, I'm never going to stop covering that case until justice is served for Tommy and for our boys, sincere and classic. So I appreciate that. And I don't know why I can't highlight it here. Those highlighted members only, the free members only highlights, I'm not able to highlight it on there. So, all right, Bill changed it to 8:15. All right, okie dokie. That means I don't have to close right now. All right. So if we got till 8:15, can someone double check that? Not that I don't trust you, okie dokie. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, there's Phil. He's in the chat. Hello, please join us. Yeah, we're going to be redirected there. I thought it was 8 o'clock, so I was telling everybody at 8, and I was getting ready to leave right now. So, but they changed it to 8:15. Hey, let me know what you think in the comment section about what we spoke about tonight. Ed Wallace is in he's in Bangkok, and he's going to be there for a little bit of a period of time, but he's got a really good Wi-Fi setup. And I think that we're going to try to get together with Ed. It's a 12-hour difference. So, okay, right now it's 7:57. It's 7:57 in the morning over there in Bangkok. So it's Monday morning at 8 o'clock. And don't worry, Kelly C, you're going to be directed as soon as this live stream ends. It's going to send you guys straight over to Police Off the Cuff. So this whole audience that's here now, we're going to go straight over there. He's recovered. He's not recovering. He's recovered from the jet lag. So thank you for that, Chris. Ed's an expert traveler. This is not his first rodeo. He's been in Iraq. He's been to South Africa. He's going to Australia in 2024. So for those of you who are in Australia, Ed Wallace is going to be traveling to Australia in 2024. I might come with Ed to Australia and travel with him. So that trip to Australia in 2024, I'm thinking I'm not definitely going to do it, but I'm thinking that I may take that trip with him because I want to get to Australia and I want to see it. So Jennifer Noble says, wow, 22 months ago since I met you, DutyRon. And what a 22 months it's been, Jen, right? A lot of love. I mean, Jen and I have spent hours on the phone together talking about the case of our boys. So here's somebody in Australia. What part of Australia are you in? Are you in Perth, Australia? Where are you? Again, so this is a brand new setup, new camera, the lighting I changed around. I want to get your feedback on what you think about the lighting and the camera and the setup that we have here. Do you guys like it? Do you like it when it's a little bit less light? I mean, is this too much? And we have Popeye Cam. My 35-year-old African gray is right over here. I remember I told you guys I was going to give you a Popeye Cam. So I shut this monitor off when I change over to the Popeye Cam. I do that so I don't confuse you guys. And boom, we're back here onto camera number 1. Camera number 2 is on the other side. And all I got to do is press a button and boom, we're over here on camera 2. Let me know what you think of the double setup on the cameras. It's always fun to play around and have a whole bunch of different things to do here in the studio. So yeah, Kelly C says the African gray is older than me. Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting. And he's going to outlive me. So he's willed to my kids. So it is what it is. My 2 boys know that they got to take care of this bird after I'm gone. So they have a 75-year life expectancy. So 75 years, and we'll see how that goes. Great setup. You look like you're 29. Get out of here. Get out of town, Barbara. Look at her bird. Look at that. It's looks like a yellow-naped Amazon, but there's some red in that one. So I'm not sure what kind of bird that is. So yeah, we're getting tech. This took me hours. I'm telling you, I was up until 3:30 in the morning, our time, Eastern Standard Time, 3:30 in the morning. I paid the price for it tomorrow. This morning I paid the price for it the next day. So it was interesting. It was interesting. So it is what it is. But here we have it. The setup, we're upgrading on a continual basis. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how we, can upgrade in the future. If there's anything else that I could do, I'd love to do it. I do love the toys, but this is, helping to enhance it's helping to enhance the live stream for you guys. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. A lot of love and respect from my house to yours. Let me know in the comments what you think about what we covered here tonight. Bryan Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, and how she got the appointment from the Latah County Court. We covered it thanks to our good friend, Miss Burkhart from Burkhart Law. Her YouTube channel is linked in the description. Go over and check out Andrea. Support her. She is an awesome person. I can't say enough good about her. And I thank you guys for joining. As I like to end all of these live streams, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. And all of the victims of crime across the globe, not just the United States, across the world. Their victims and their families, we send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. Thank you for joining here on this unscheduled live stream on Crime Time with DutyRon. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow me and Ed on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love, and we'll catch you. I'll be in the chat over at Police Off the Cuff, so I'll see you over there. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Popeye.